What a day! Another day. The world is trying to figure out what the U.S. strategy is. U.S. strategy is
There is no U.S. strategy.
let's see how many times we can shoot ourselves in the foot and hobble to a finish line.
What do you make of, before we go through the news, what's your thoughts? I know you kind of summed it up, but beyond what you just said, any other thoughts on today's developments?
The United States it's committing suicide. At least let's give.
Compare this to Asmongold video we watched yesterday. Yes. Someone informed versus someone uninformed.
The Saudis credit. They recognized they did something stupid the other day when they attacked the Houthis. And instead of doubling down on stupid, they said, okay, we're going to stop this. Because they recognize, I mean, think of it. So let's talk strategy. If you're Saudi Arabia, what's your strategy? Is your strategy that, okay, right now we can't get oil out through the Persian Gulf. We need to continue to have oil flowing so that we have income coming in. And so the best way to do that is we'll send what we can through the pipeline to Yanbu, going from the east coast to the west coast of Saudi Arabia on the Red Sea. And therefore we can get our oil out. It can sell through the Suez, sell through the Bab el-Mandab Strait. So the other day it looks like some genius, I don't know if it was MBS or not, but decided, hey, got this great idea. Let's attack the Houthis, who then are in a position to shut down Bab el-Mandab, and they can bomb.
That's exactly what happened. The Houthis didn't join in unprovoked. Saudi Arabia attacked the Houthis, provoked them.
Us to oblivion in Yanbu and shut down all of our oil exports. That's a great idea. Let's do that. So, they attacked the airfield at Sana'a. The Houthis wasted no time blowing up 2 airfields in Saudi Arabia. They didn't destroy them, but it certainly sent a message that we're going to shut down these airfields if you keep this up. And Yanbu's next, and we'll shut down this Bab el-Mandab Strait. And my understanding is, I think the Pakistanis had a talk with the Saudis going, what the hell are you thinking? What are you doing? Trying to kill you?
Yeah, because Pakistan, India, Japan, a lot of nations to the east of the Middle East that need oil. And they're still getting a bunch of oil through here, through Yanbu. And maybe the royalty in Saudi Arabia isn't worried about the Red Sea shutting down, but I guarantee you Pakistan, India, and Japan, etc. are.
For yourselves, stop it. And they stopped so far. We'll see how long that lasts, but I'd be surprised at this point if the Saudis now try to re-engage, try to take on the Houthis. They couldn't do it in the first 10 years. What's changed now?
You want to take on the Houthis. Do it when the Strait of Hormuz isn't closed. Like that, you can still export most of your oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. But with the Strait of Hormuz is closed, going after the Houthis, that's just suicidal. That just blocks off oil coming this way. And you see, to deliver oil to Pakistan or India, now ships have to go all the way around Africa. This short trip right here becomes 5 times, 6 times as long. That means you need 6 times as many ships to supply the same amount of oil to Pakistan. Everything becomes a logistical nightmare.
Now the Saudis are militarily stronger right now. They're economically weaker now than they were during that war.
Yeah, well, while you're speaking, U.S. attacks on Bandar Abbas, targeting the Bandar Abbas International Airport. One interesting observation as well. So that's what you just talked about now is the good news so far, what we have. The Saudis hopefully backing off Yemen, because I really would like that country to just get some breathing space. They've suffered immensely. I understand every country wants to advance its strategic interests, and there's a lot of interest involved in controlling the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, but just let the Yemenis live. It's insane. The country, the famine they're going through, the destruction they've been through. This, how long is that? Do you know how long civil war's been going on for?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
It's sad. It's sad.
10, 11 years. You had you had at least 2 years of peace up until the other day. But again, the Houthis, they're some hard, tough characters. So what have you learned today from your discussions with various people?
The last one with Malcolm is interesting. So he talked about you. He said, look, what me, Larry, who else did he mention? General McGregor, etc. We disagree on many things, but we all agree on this Iran war. It's just, he called it the loop of stupid. That was his
Yes, the loop of stupid.
And he referenced Professor Pape as well. But the part of the conversation that stuck with me. That was the last conversation I had. Was I asked him to get his thoughts from a military perspective on the targeting right now and what does he see the American strategy to be, if there is one. He said to me, Mario, they're striking Kish Island, and if I had to speculate, the dumb idea they have right now is to conduct a raid on Kish Island. So not an operation to go in and capture it, but they want to go in there, fight the people, see how the Iranians retaliate, respond, and then leave. So when they get into an island, any territory in Iran, they can't stay there for the obvious reasons me and you have talked about. They become sitting ducks, and the Iranians will just fire at them and cause a lot of casualties. So it's not feasible. So he's looking at the strikes on Kish Island, which included a desalination plant. So he's like, Mario, what I'm worried now is the Americans are trying to get the Iranian troops on Kish Island, cut them out of order, conduct a raid there, thinking it's a good idea to now do it in Sirik and in Bandar Abbas and on Keshem Island, potentially, to do a raid there afterwards, if the one on Sirik on Kish works, to destroy their underground facilities where those boats are, with the end goal being to degrade Iran's ability to close the Strait of Hormuz. So, because my question to him, to tell you the context, I asked him, look, I told Malcolm, I have a lot of my guests
Whew, that's a stupid idea.
telling me, especially Brendan Weichert, he's been saying it for weeks, saying that it looks like what the Americans are doing now is a shaping operation, preparing for a ground operation. And then you've got Trump yesterday and today talking about a ground operation, capturing Card Island, etc., and then talking about other troops. So he said we need troops on the ground, but it won't be our troops. It'll be the troops of another country, without being specific. Whether he's talking about the Kurds, the Baluchis, the Gulf, the Europeans, no clue, the Israelis, or just talking shit.
Or it might be wishful thinking. Some magical troops will appear out of nowhere and fight for us.
But so this is the concern that I focused a lot on today with many guests, but the one from Malcolm is the one that stuck with me. That worries me if that's the plan, if there's actually any plans to have troops on the ground, even for a raid.
How do those troops get there?
He explained it how they would get there if hypothetically they did that operation. It wouldn't be by. Fuck. I should go back and listen to it.
So it's not going to be through amphibious landing.
Exactly, because
So that leaves only two options. You
helicopters.
jump them in with parachutes, or you fly them in. A plane lands, and they offload as quickly as they can, and the plane takes off, and another plane comes in, and it takes off, and another plane comes in. How many troops? Look, the Iranian. This is, what you ought to ask Malcolm and others to explain is how many potential targets are there from, what was it called, Bandar el Ghanem, which is north of Keshem Island, all the way down to Sirik. That's about 180 miles of terrain, all along from the top to the bottom. Iran's got coastal defense cruise missiles that are inside caves. They're not vulnerable. You can bomb the shit out of the caves. You're not going to destroy them. Then they've got a variety. How many? 100, 200, 300 different launching positions for drones, all along that 180 miles. Then, and look at all the launch positions from Keshem and from Kish, and whatever America's doing is actually, from a strategic purpose, this is serving the interests of China. China, man.
We're giving them Taiwan with a pretty bow on top of it because we're using all our weapons against Iran. And if we have no weapons left, precision weapons, then how would we defend Taiwan?
I guarantee it. China's encouraging, helping. They're going to help Iran hang in there as far as possible. Why? Because every day the United States expends, what they're hitting those sites with. It's got to be either Tomahawks or JASSMs. They're not hitting them with ATACMS. Okay, the ATACMS can barely get across. If they fire them from Bahrain into Bandar Abbas, that is the extreme range of the ATACMS. They can't. They go 300 kilometers. That's it. 180 miles. That's their maximum range. Okay, so they have to use this thing called precision strike missiles, PRSMs. How many of those do they have? Lockheed Martin in 2026 made 54. Okay?
This is what happens when you outsource your manufacturing base to another country. You're outsourcing your long-term prosperity and military power.
54. Well, if they're shooting 10 a day, guess what? They have enough for 5.5 days. That's it. They're out. So they've exhausted their, missiles that can be launched from HIMARS. Plus, Iran's now apparently has targeted and blown up the HIMARS launchers. So that may not even be an issue anymore. So that leaves the United States using ATACMS and JASSM.
Are you in Europe? You're in Europe, it's going to be real rough. It There is no solution. It's just like Trump that's doing this war. We're obviously heading right towards an oil shortage, and the strategic reserve is now on the verge of being depleted. And what does he do? He just continues the war. And Europe is cutting themselves off from Russian gas. They're cut off from Qatar gas. What are they going to use this winter? Wood. Eastern PA. Yeah, well, in the United States, it's going to be better because we have natural gas, and Trump can do an export ban on natural gas exports and keep prices down domestically. So he has that card to play, which he might play with midterms elections coming. It's Europe that's going to be really screwed. Heating prices will be up for everyone. Just some places it might be 2 times, some places it might be 4 times. Europe is going to be the 4 times.
Primarily. Okay, maybe there's another munition they're using, but again, I guarantee you they don't have unlimited amounts of other munition either. So from China's standpoint, hey, keep this going on for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Every day that the United States is expending these munitions, those are one less weapon that can be used against China.
Exactly.
So right now, Iran is attriting.
Yeah, at the end of this Iran war, China might make a move for Taiwan because it will be the best time ever. The U.S. will be at its absolute weakest. So, and then imagine that. We will have had a conflict in Iran, the Ukraine conflict with Russia, and then China goes after Taiwan. Maybe they don't even wait till this Iran situation is over. Then we could have 3 major wars going on.
The U.S. capability to carry out strikes. And the United States has got, I think we talked about this last night. They're looking at maybe potential 1,000 different targets spread out over that 180 miles. I mean, just think of it. If all you have are 10 launch sites per mile, those are spread out. They're not concentrated. Do the math. 10 times 180, 1,800 targets potentially. The U.S. doesn't have enough munitions or enough aircraft to take those all out at once. So it'd be great, it blows up some here. The Iranians rebuild, they restock, but they move.
And a lot of these are inside tunnels, so all we bomb is a tunnel entrance. And then you just need a bulldozer, move some rubble, and the tunnel's unblocked.
It's insanity. And God help if they're dumb enough, if the U.S. military planners are dumb enough to try to insert a raiding party, 150 troops? Good. You're going to have potentially 150 casualties, maybe even prisoners captured.
You're going to have videos of FPV drones diving into, and U.S. Is going to see the face of shocked Marines seconds before they go boom. That's what's happening in Ukraine for the Ukrainians and Russians. It's the era of drone warfare.
So
no, I don't disagree. I think it's
the United States does not have a workable plan for defeating Iran on the coast and degrading their ability to stop ships from violating the protocols. What about the underwater drones? What about the mini submarines? And Iran can then say, well, screw that. We don't even have to worry about targeting ships. We'll just go dump a bunch of mines in the Omani Strait, which reportedly they have. They've dumped some there. And that's what that one, was it a ship?
Yeah, the tanker the ship that sunk. It probably hit a mine.
Korean ship? Or it was a Turkish ship.
Turkish. Show it. Lisa, show that ship that was sinking. I know what you're referring to.
Yeah. So you got a sunk ship there. Iran can sustain this for quite a while. And China, people think that China's under such economic.
This is what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. They've mined this, and a ship tried to go through, and this happened. So there will be no more of that nonsense of ships trying to go through the Omani side. But before the end of August, there's going to be actual shortages. So it's going to hit the United States in diesel and jet fuel. And so the United States make a choice, diesel for trucks or jet fuel for planes. Even if the war ended now and they started trying to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, it would probably take at least a month before traffic got up to here, and probably 2 or 3 months before it got fully open again. So even if the strait opened now, we're still heading to an oil shortage.
And China, people think that China's under such economic pressure that it's going to pressure Iran. No, I disagree. Again, it's my opinion, but I think China's got much more to gain by seeing.
I think one little mine that probably costs like $10,000 take out a huge ship like this.
The United States deplete its
Maybe
supply
even
of,
less than that.
weapons that can be used against China. So the more the United States is firing these, the less it can be fired at China. And China knows the United States isn't going to be building any of those soon because we hold all the rare earth minerals that they need to produce those, particularly the magnets that are used in the guidance systems of these.
Yeah.
But look at it from Iran's standpoint. All they have to do is target 10 bases. And they destroy those bases, they destroy the ability of America to continue attacks. They keep hitting the bases in Jordan, and they're hitting Bahrain.
Yeah, the most important bases U.S. have, they're talking about 10 air bases, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's actually more than 10 overall. Iran has its target set, and it's got excellent satellite data, and also look at the terrain. This is why the United States has such a problem. All these mountains, every one of these like military installations built into them. And you can't bomb your way through granite mountains. Meanwhile, all the land, all these air bases U.S. is operating from, it's all flatlined. There's no place to dig in like underground bunkers really in the Middle East. So they're just U.S. Bases are just on flat ground, and they're being demolished slowly.
Bahrain. So Bahrain's going to be useless. Kuwait's going to be useless, if not already useless.
It doesn't get much rougher than that in terms of Iran is just one big mountain country.
So, the other option for the United States with these attacks is drones as opposed to attacking missiles. But the drones are much easier to take down with Iranian air defenses. And we saw the so-called air defenses in Kuwait. Hell, drones, slow-flying drones were blowing up, 2 different drone hits on that one warehouse that supposedly was a storehouse for drones.
Well, they struck Kuwait now, probably another storehouse of drones.
U.S. has its drones in warehouses that can be easily bombed, and Iran has them in caves that some of them even a nuke couldn't take out.
It's literally just came in now, breaking explosions in Kuwait as you're speaking. So when we started the interview, I said that Bandar Abbas, I think, we're being struck. And 5 minutes into or 15 minutes into our discussion, there's explosions in Kuwait. It's been like this all day. Funny.
Yeah, U.S. attacks are intensifying in their length, the duration of the bombings, the targets. Yeah, I don't think it'll accomplish anything, but it's intensifying.
Not funny. Perfect timing is tomorrow. I'm speaking, I think it's tomorrow, to Colonel Mark Cansey, and he's the one that came up with the report. I told you about him already. So my discussion with him is, I think, tomorrow. My team told, or after tomorrow. So I'll bring up this issue, see what he thinks, because he's been ringing the alarm since the early days of the war about the depleted munitions, and his reports and his officers' reports are the ones being used by CNN. So I'll let you know when I have that discussion. I'll let you know how it goes and what he says, because he put out a news report as well, talking about.
Look, it's one thing if you have a supply chain's intact and the industrial ability to turn these out quickly, but the production rate on these advanced missiles, the Tomahawks and the JASSMs in particular, is pretty time consuming. So if the United States can maybe produce 2 a month and they're using 10 per day, again, do the math.
United States used to be a manufacturing powerhouse. After World War II, we were making 2/3 of the world's goods. 2/3, entire world. Of course, that was because Europe was a mess, so they weren't producing much. But still, we were the China of the world back then.
So they use 60 a month, and they can produce a total of maybe 8 a month. That means that's called deficit spending.
Also, one thing they targeted yesterday, I could show the images here, Lisa, just in the targeting, since we're talking about what the Iranians are targeting. So the heavy bombing yesterday of Bahrain and Kuwait. By the way, it seems from people I spoke with, the munitions used yesterday was the Karm Shah missile.
Here. This is what I'm talking about. Can Trump turn back the clock on U.S. manufacturing? This is what happened to 32% of the economy jobs to 8%. And even at 8%, now it's might be lower than that. And we used to do the rare earth refining. That used to be in the United States. We did what China did and refined all the rare earths. Then we outsourced that to China. Really smart, right?
Iranians used on Bahrain as a big warning shot, which is really concerning. The one we talked about. There were two reports. I think I have it live when we're speaking. One of them is an one of the PAC-3s exploding midair. And the other one, I'll talk about this in a second on screen. And the other one's the actual Karam Shah missile with the cluster warheads or cluster munitions that they used on Israel. And from the people I spoke with throughout the day, it seems to be the latter, which is really concerning. We'll talk about that in a second. And in terms of the targeting, this is what's on screen right now is what the Iranians have targeted yesterday in their attack. Iran's IRGC claims it targeted and destroyed KGL's logistics and support center in Kuwait's Mina Abdullah area. The KGL facility is located in the same area where NASA firms detected active fires. For more than 2 decades, KGL Logistics has received multi-billion-dollar contracts from the U.S. Department of Defense covering heavy military transport, troop food distribution, and port and warehouse support for U.S. forces across the Middle East. In January 2018, the blah, blah, blah awarded KGL food distribution.
It's a huge, big, important piece of U.S. logistics in the region.
Distribution contract worth at least $700 million with a maximum value of $2 billion or $1.3 billion. And it goes on expanding on who they are. So that was one of the targeting. You can remove it, Lisa, thank you. And there's also other satellite images. I didn't think it's worth showing today. But every time there's an attack, there's satellite images showing the damage it has caused in the American bases in the region.
Oh yeah, I finished it. I definitely end up enjoying Super Hot, and I definitely was fully corrupted and shot my in-game self, and became some type of digital avatar of destruction in Super Hot. Completely crazy. It's a cool game, yes. Only criticism is it's a little short. And because something's really good, you don't. It's sad when it's short, but I had a lot of fun playing it.
Oh yeah, and the cluster warheads. You can show that again, Lisa, for anyone that didn't see it yesterday. But that's significant. In the last week, we've had Iran do a few things that will be considered pretty significant warnings: strike the UAE, strike Saudi, and heavily strike Qatar over one day. There's
fireworks.
They struck the ships up.
There are now fireworks in the Middle East again. Wouldn't you like to live in the Middle East and have free fireworks shows every evening?
Fujairah, the refinery, and unconfirmed reports that the Fujairah refinery is no longer operational, has paused operations. Maybe it's resumed. Nothing official came out, but I saw reports about it, which will be significant because that's the Emirates' alternative to the Strait of Hormuz. So the UAE has Fujairah. Saudi has the east-west pipeline we were talking about earlier that goes through the Red Sea. And what Lisa was showing now on screen is the cluster warheads that were used yesterday in Bahrain, which will be the first time this is used in a Gulf country. And I brought this up with Malcolm, and Malcolm's like, Mario, imagine if this continues to go the way it is, imagine a few of those missiles, the Karam Shah missiles fired by the Iranians on the UAE, and what damage that would do. He used that as an example of, just to make the point that we are playing with fire.
If Iran has used cluster ammunitions against Gulf states, it's probably one or two just to drive home the message, the threat that this is real war. Stop hosting these U.S. bases.
But I asked Joe Kent the question as well. I'll add one more thing. I asked Joe Kent the question, does he think, because me and him have been kind of in line where we think Trump should just walk away. That was our first discussion. We started getting a bit optimistic, me more than him. And I asked him the question at the end of our conversation, does he think it's more likely by the end of the year Trump walks?
Trump can't walk away right now. He's still pretending he's won. He listen to him and his speeches. Well, we won bigly. We destroyed everything. Then, if he then walks away, leaving Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz and the regime in place, no nuclear deal, everyone will see that as a loss. Asmongold will stop being happy about the war. He'll be like, this was a big fucking disaster. So he can't walk away. He's going to have to be forced to walk away. And the only thing that can force Trump to do that is an oil shortage.
Away, or the war continues by the end of this year, and he thought the latter is more likely, which was concerning.
I don't think the United States will be able to continue the war at the end of the year because they won't have enough weapons. They will have.
Well, at the end of the year, yeah, sure, but long before we get to the end of the year point, the oil will become an issue before the lack of weapons.
It will have depleted their supply to critical levels. Again, it's not just if we're talking right now on what they call the CENTCOM area of responsibility. Well, you got INDOPACOM. They have established mission guidelines, and within those missions, to accomplish those missions, they have to have a certain number of Tomahawks, a certain number of JASSMs, okay, certain number of Patriots that have been depleted already.
INDOPACOM is Indo-Pacific.
Yeah,
For the
it
audience.
used to be called PACOM.
Well, I honestly believe at this point, with the desperation on part of Trump and the U.S. military trying to live up to whatever Trump expectations are, that yes, weapons in the rest of the world, rest of U.S.'s like troop station, like near Taiwan, for example, their weapons will be depleted to attack Iran a little bit harder. And at some point, they're going to start draining those emergency reserves in the strategic oil reserve to keep oil prices down. But because they keep like 10% for the military, I think they might already be doing that, drawing down those reserves to just... Trump is desperately doing everything he can to not surrender to Iran. And he's going to take weapons from all around the world, release every last barrel of oil that the United States has in storage to delay the moment of reckoning.
Pacific Command, but it's responsible for basically China, all of Asia. And it's basically what they can do from ships, from aircraft carriers that will launch planes that can carry those weapons, or from ships that can launch missiles. There is no ground option. So, I can see the Chinese right now. They're sitting around probably with bottles of champagne, popping them, saying, this is great. Iran is depleting the United States of
They're making plans for taking Taiwan while we're doing this.
the weapons that they could use against us. There's a strategy for you.
Yeah, well, that's been my concern in the early days of the war is that I made the comparison to Ukraine. I'm like, Ukraine was used by NATO as with the goal of weakening Russia. And my worry is that Iran will be used by China as their way to weaken, and even Russia's support, Russia and China, as a way to weaken the US. Because it's just a perfect trap for Trump.
Well, it's the United States weakening the United States.
Yeah, it wasn't a trap. It's not like it's China that went over to Washington and whispered in Trump's ear, attack Iran. That was Netanyahu, our greatest ally, that did that. The trap, now it's become a trap, but it's a trap Trump stumbled into with Netanyahu's help.
Yeah.
This is a war of choice. This was not one in which Iran attacked us.
Exactly.
Instead, and where we had to
It's not like
respond.
Iran closed. It's not like Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz and we had to respond because they closed the strait. It's the other way around. It's they closed the
Well,
strait.
there's a way to
We bombed their supreme leader. And of course they closed the strait.
get it open. You can negotiate it open.
Yeah.
You can, and the United States doesn't want to admit that Iran is in a position that's holding the cards.
It's in a position of power.
It's Iran's saying, play by our rules, you don't play. Real simple. And the United States thinks it can degrade.
Everything's going on right now these last few days is Trump's last tantrum before being forced to surrender to Iran.
Iran's ability to attack ships. It cannot. Yeah, can it hurt Iran? Oh yeah, it can hurt Iran. But it can't degrade it to the point that it can't continue to respond. Hell, it's not even just the coastal defense cruise missiles on the shore, and it's not just the different drones that can be launched. They can go move into the interior where the United States isn't bombing yet. Again, and you try to extend the range, you increase. I think Iran's got air defense systems already. They're shooting down drones. Multi-million-dollar drones that are not, they're not easily replaceable. So this is, again, there's not a good strategic plan for the United States.
Iran has shot down a lot of Reaper drones that do surveillance and bombing on U.S.'s behalf. That's what they've shot down the most of.
And the ground operation might initially lead to some cheering on the U.S. Hey, we've attacked. And then when the Iranians start responding with short-range ballistic missiles, drones, artillery fire, and then if they have actually any troops on there to engage the U.S. forces, the U.S. forces to operate in this summer heat need water. Hell, they're going to need water more than they're going to need ammunition just to stay alive, just to stay combat effective.
Yeah, the temperature right now in the Middle East, let's check that. 110 in some places. They're going to be going to an island if U.S. lands troops in Keshem Island. So that'll be a little bit cooler, so maybe between 90 and 100. Still, it's not pleasant.
Where's all that damn water going to come from? Yeah, particularly if they blow up the desalinization plant, so they cut themselves. Now, we're going to cut the Iranians off from water. Well, you cut yourselves off from water, you dummies.
Yeah. Another interesting conversation. Just remembered. I spoke to Yaakov Katz again. He's the former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post, critical of Netanyahu, and there's a lot of agreements in that conversation because we tend to disagree on the strategy for Lebanon, especially we disagree on Gaza and the West Bank. But we agreed. We didn't discuss those today. But he agreed that he's explaining how we started this war with the objective of degrading Iran's missile capabilities, their proxy network, etc. Now the objective is just to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and how there is no military solution. Even he's made that point. And this is someone who just says, Mario, as if my focus is Israel first, and for my own interest, I would love to weaken Iran. That's our goal. That's our objective. But there is no military solution to it. So that was another interesting conversation.
Well, and then add to that Iran's now declared, we're not bound by the MOU anymore. That means Hezbollah can now go on the offensive. Up to this point, Hezbollah has followed Iran's guidance in not attacking Israeli forces. Hezbollah has held up. They've responded to attacks, but they haven't launched new attacks on their own. I think
more FE drones will be sent into the IDF troops.
We're going to see Hezbollah start launching new attacks on Israel, putting further strain on Israel. And then you come to what that minister of transport in Israel did, was saying, hey, get your KC-135s out. We don't want those here. Why? Because you're now going to become a target.
They revoked the decision today. Just to give you context, this morning they allowed them again, so they've walked back that decision.
Oh.
But just tell the audience anyway, because we discussed it yesterday. The Minister of Transport was telling the KC-135s of the U.S. to leave the Ben Gurion airport.
Yeah. And so now what's going to happen is Iran will continue launching the ballistic missiles at the two primary air bases that the United States is now using to launch a fixed-wing aircraft for dropping munitions. And those are in Jordan. Well, continued missile strikes in Jordan are going to render those airfields unusable. They will, if nothing else, you put the Karam Shar missile in there with the cluster munitions that hit parked planes, and those planes start blowing up. Then the United States is going, okay, we have to withdraw to another location. Once they withdraw into Israel, then Israel's going to get targeted.
One more point before we go back to the news of the day. You asked about the conversations today. Me and Joe talked about, he's the perfect person to talk about this, regarding the risk of...
Where do you think they'd evade if they did Keshem Island? Because this is all about controlling the Strait of Hormuz. Yes, Trump talks about Karg Island where they load Iranian oil, but that might be a misdirection. It's going to be one of these islands. What he was suggesting was they might do a raid, maybe on a smaller island, not go in and stay, but go in and try to destroy the tunnels that the Iranians keep all their drones and their ships in. And so a raid on the island to accomplish that purpose. That would involve fighting inside of tunnels on Iranian home advantage. Then to rig them with explosives, I think it'd be very messy. But I think Trump might be getting desperate enough to do that, because I've said before, like next week about is the limit for trying one of those operations, one of those raids on the ground. If the United States doesn't do it soon, there'll be an actual oil shortage and it won't be viable anymore.
Nation against Trump, either by Iran or by lone wolf actor, and not now, but for years or decades to come. Because Professor Pape told me this yesterday. He's like, Mario, this risk because of what Trump did, killing their political leader, but also their religious leader, his family.
Larry's always smoking his cigar during these sections. And Mario, the one time he wasn't, Mario's like, where's your cigar? And everyone expects him to be smoking.
I forgot his wife was also killed, by the way. I know about his daughter, his niece, his father, Ali Khamenei, but his wife as well was killed. I forgot. So Professor Pape was saying how he believes the risk of someone acting on this, whether an IRGC commander, a former commander, Iran himself under new leadership, under the current leadership, now in 5 years, in 20 years, as high as it's ever been.
Yeah, they're still mostly hitting the coast. And because there's a lot, if there, that's why a lot of commentators think the United States might be getting ready for some type of raid. Is they think all these attacks, they've also gone up and hit very all along here too. So most of the attacks are centered on the coast, a shaping operation for maybe some type of ground operation.
Been even after Trump obviously is no longer president, could be even targeting his family, his business interests, and it doesn't have to be Iranians or the Iranian government. It could be anybody. And Joe was saying it doesn't even have to be a Shiite person because of the significance of the aggression on Iran, and that could lead to a spike in terrorist attacks on the U.S. or on the president. He doesn't believe the Iranian government, and me and you discussed it yesterday, will act on this, will seek revenge now, because that won't be the pragmatic thing to do. But in 10 years' time, 15 years' time, in 20 years' time, the risk is pretty high. And then so I asked a question whether that makes. Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, so I was just going to say.
As to where the attacks are, see, July 14th, right along the coastline. These are different rounds of attacks. Again, the coastline. Up here this time. It's all the area around the Strait of Hormuz. And up here, that has to probably do with the Kuwaiti base that Iran is attacking repeatedly because it's one of the biggest staging grounds of U.S. forces in the Middle East.
I just asked Joe, do you think that increases the likelihood Trump will continue to target their leadership or reduce it if Trump is scared for his life? Joe's concern is like, my worry is that Trump will just double down to kill their leadership, to kill Mustafa Khamenei because of these fears.
Well, okay, so which country has been assassinating the leader of another country? It's the United States. So it's called karma. So what, you can dish it out, but you can't take it? That's one of the consequences. If you're going to adopt the policy of assassination, recognize that it can be turned against you. But
yeah, if you're going to kill Iran's Pope, basically, yeah, there might be someone who comes after you eventually too. Don't assassinate if you don't want to be assassinated.
I think right now Iran's going to content itself with destroying the U.S. ability to stay in the Persian Gulf. That's very.
Yeah, I don't think Iran is trying to assassinate Trump at the moment. There might be some individual Iranian that decides to do something on their own. That might happen. But right now, Iran is on the verge of getting a huge economic victory, getting the world to run out of oil. And then they'll have Trump exactly where they want him. He'll be forced to surrender to them. You don't go after Trump's life when you're on the verge of humiliating him.
Very easy to do. All they got to do is keep bombing. They only have to destroy 10 targets. Or now let's add Fujairah, 11. Fujairah
would be more. That's energy infrastructure, so I think that's necessary for the U.S. military.
But it's in support of Oman, UAE's support of the United States. Take out Duqm in Oman. Take out Al Dhafra in UAE. Continue to attack Al Udeid, so it can't be used. Al Isa in Bahrain, Ali Salman in Kuwait, and so far, the Saudis appear to be keeping their powder dry. They're not weighing in whole hogs saying, let's get involved with this full time, because then they're going to become a target. They prefer not to be a target.
There's been direct impact in Kuwait now, near the Iraqi border. So that's just a list of the bases we're going through. All right, so going to the news. Did you know that, talking about the U.S. Trump assassination risk, 180 Iranian MPs, that was 2 days ago, yesterday, sorry, but I missed it yesterday. 180 Iranian MPs signed a joint statement demanding revenge and blood revenge for the assassination of Ali Khamenei, the former supreme leader, while also calling to scrap the MOU. So 180 out of the 290, so more than half of the, no, less than half, just under half.
No, actually, I heard.
Over half.
I heard today it was 400.
There's only 290, so 180 out of the 290, so maybe the 400 signed something else. So 180 out of the 290 MPs signed this statement. So they officially demanding revenge. Over half of the members of parliament officially demanding revenge and wanting to rip up the MOU. And that will be probably on top of something else that you're referring to, where they call the same thing.
Iran's foreign ministry announced yesterday that they're not bound by the MOU anymore. The MOU is dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we spoke about that statement by the foreign minister or foreign minister spokesperson, that they're not bound by it. So there's that. That was yesterday. So I'm going to go through some of the news that are pointing to this war escalating. Reuters reported the recent waves. Okay, so this story is the one that led to my conversation with Malcolm and others on what this military strategy is. So there's a Reuters story that says the recent waves of U.S. strikes on Iran aimed at forcing open the Strait of Hormuz are also targeting Iranian military capabilities that the U.S. would want to destroy before any broader military campaign, according to Reuters citing U.S. officials. One U.S. Official said the strikes are, quote, helping set the stage if needed.
Shaping
And
operations.
another story by Axios says Trump held a Situation Room meeting on a massive new offensive warning. Next week comes the power plants. Next week comes the bridges. So according to Axios, he convened the...
If that happens, it's going to quickly become unlivable in a huge part of the Middle East, because Iran will go after the desalination plants and energy infrastructure here. And again, this is completely flat, whereas Iran has a ton of different power stations. Just because you need different power stations in all these different valleys and different areas. So it's a lot harder to take out their power network. And they have groundwater, mountains. There's a lot of runoff from mountains. There's rivers, streams. They have, I think it's the places where they have used desalination plants is like right here on the coastal areas. But more inland, they have groundwater.
Full cabinet, Vance, Rubio, Hegseth, Kane, Ratcliffe, Witkoff, to plan devastating strikes on strategic targets far wider than the current Hormuz campaigns, going deeper into Iran. And one of the options on the table is Pickaxe Mountain, which the Iranians have warned Trump against attacking. I think that would lead to Iran escalating significantly. There it is. An advisor to Iran's parliamentary speaker is warning that the region, quote, will turn to hell if the U.S. strikes Pickaxe Mountain. Mehdi Mohammadi, advisor to Ghalibaf, called the site, quote, the most fortified nuclear facility in the world and said it simply cannot be touched. And then he warned that the region will turn into hell.
You understand? You understand that facility? All Iranian facilities are built to withstand a nuclear blast. Okay, a nuclear bomb is not going to take them out. They're built to withstand that. They are so deep underground that the nuclear bomb's not going to do that. And go back to Trump. He quote obliterated the capability. Capabilities haven't been obliterated at all. And DIA, to its credit, back when those attacks took place last June, said as much, and the head of DIA got removed. Can't tell the president the truth, by God. You got to go with the narrative. Lie.
Yeah, I think Trump has surrounded himself with yes men, unfortunately, to a huge degree. And a little bit understandably, too, because his first term, everyone in his cabinet was working against him behind the scenes and working to undermine him. So this time around, he's going with loyalist. But loyalists also mean yes men.
Well, you'll laugh at that one. I saved it for you. A scathing new Pentagon Inspector General report found problems at the plant delayed the Army's 100,000 round per month goal. There's a new $500 million artillery shell plant that failed to produce any 155 millimeter parts. So the whole report's a long one, but just showing that the production capacity of the US is just not meeting demand.
Failed to complete any?
That's what it says. The inability of a munitions plant in Mesquite, Texas, to build a key part set back the U.S. Army's plans for ramping up production of 155 millimeter shells to 100,000 rounds per month. That was the goal, according to a scathing new report by the War Department's Office of Inspector General. Despite receiving close to $500 million from the U.S. Army funded through.
This is what happened when you outsource your manufacturing base.
With supplemental spending bills from fiscal year 2022 and 2023, General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems failed to make a single subcomponent needed to produce the badly needed shells as of late March. Quote, without the 30,000 additional projectiles metal parts anticipated from the Mesquite facility, the Army will be unable to reach its monthly capability goal of 100,000 155 millimeter artillery rounds, the report concluded. Quote, as of March 2026, the CPE and the CPE A&E officials have not developed a plan to produce the additional rounds that are supposed to be produced by the Mesquite facility. At present, the Army is only producing 36,000 rounds per month. Through modernization efforts and 2 new facilities, the Army expects to exceed the 100,000 rounds per month goal significantly by the end of next year. The initial goal was established by Congress in the wake of the U.S. providing millions of rounds to Ukraine.
And so what? All of that's irrelevant to Iran. I mean, the 155 millimeter shell can travel 18 miles maximum.
Unrelated to the Iran war, but that shows the action.
Russia's outproducing all of NATO in terms of shells, missiles, everything practically.
Capabilities.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the United States supply chain and production chain are completely screwed up. compare that with what Russia did. Russia's turning out, what, 1 million a month?
All right, on the Gulf front, the Trump administration. No, that's not interesting. The port of Fujairah, the region's most important oil tanker hub, has allegedly and unconfirmed been closed after the IRGC launched missiles at 2 large oil tankers. Now, I was mentioning it to one of my guests, and they said, look, it's not uncommon for them to close it when there's a risk, and they could reopen it again. So closed doesn't mean permanent. And the Iranians haven't announced the closure of Fujairah as they did during Project Freedom, so they haven't shut it down. But it just shows that this is escalating. This is starting to touch energy infrastructure. We're talking about Fujairah now, and we talked about a plant in Iran that was struck as well.
You mean starting to? It has already affected the.
Apparently, U.S. has bombed 3 water-related plants in Iran, and I don't think Iran has properly retaliated for that yet.
The entire flow of Gulf
And I
oil
mean,
from the Persian Gulf.
starting to touch the red line of striking energy infrastructure on both sides. So the Americans have really avoided striking Iranian energy infrastructure. There's been a few instances, and the Iranians have avoided to an extent, partially avoided striking the energy infrastructure in the Gulf, just a few exceptions. So we haven't really fully crossed that line, but we're really flirting with it every day that passes. That's what worries me.
And that's why I think from Saudi's standpoint, they're not going to get involved. They want to keep their energy. They want to keep their oil wells intact. They don't want to have to shut them down. Because once you shut them down, they don't just turn back on. It takes a while to get them back up and operating.
Yeah, so that's on the Fujairah plant. So I just got a piece of message. I'm just confirming it before showing it. There's also U.S. strikes right now on Bandar Abbas, southern Iran. And you can actually show this. That's just right now on Kuwaiti border. That was, I told you 20 minutes ago. Show this image, Lisa, I just sent you. That's a photo taken from the Iraqi border of Kuwait after the strike that happened about 20 minutes ago that we talked about. And that's where the HIMARS launchers were targeted 2 days ago by the Iranians. So I'm not sure whether this is a similar target or something else, but that's on the Kuwaiti-Iraqi border. You can expand it if you don't mind, Lisa. You could remove it as well. So that's on the Strait of Hormuz, on the energy infrastructure. We've got a report that the Gulf is racing to make its oil strait proof with pipelines that could bypass 60% of Hormuz. They talk about
Yeah, but that doesn't happen overnight.
a few estimates, the UAE's pipelines, the Iranian pipeline, the Iraqi working on a pipeline as well. Now, this is obviously positive for them to diversify away from the straits. The problem is they can also be targeted. The pipelines and the refineries could also be targeted in a state of war.
Yeah, I mean,
It'll take a long time as well.
Yeah, it'll take more than a year. So it'll no help for us in this current conflict.
yeah. This is, they're talking something 5 years down the line. Yeah, maybe 5 years down the line. Well, the security situation in the Gulf will have permanently changed by then, and Iran's going to be the dominant power. And the countries in the Gulf, if they want to survive,
And everyone trying to build pipelines at the same time, well, the pipeline components are the same, and they're not unlimited.
they're going to figure out how to live with Iran. And Iran they don't have a particular grievance against those countries other than the extent that they allow themselves to be the whore of the United States.
My team found this. That's what I was verifying. Can you expand on the image? What is Iran's new revenge list? Trump, Netanyahu, Meloni among 13 foreign leaders named. You see Macron there, Starmer, Merz, Trump and Netanyahu at the top, Rubio, Hegseth, etc. Meloni.
Yeah, but that's Western generated. That's not from Iran.
No. That's from Iranian. So the team just told me now, so I took a while. So this was posted by Iranian newspaper. Can you get me the name of the newspaper, Lisa? That was posted. So it's not official from Iran, but the Iranian newspaper posted it. Find me the exact source.
Yeah, which
They have tabloids in Iran too.
newspaper? Because
I'll ask you to get it.
you haven't had any official release from the government of Iran, unlike the Mirtovich site in Ukraine, which has a whole list of Americans listed as assassination targets by our ally Ukraine. Scott Ritter's on it.
Yes, Ukraine does have an assassination list, officially part of its policy, its government.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. What's the? Is it
Mirtovets.
a government? Is that a government entity or?
It absolutely is. It's actually the website's hosted by the CIA. It's hosted in McLean, Virginia. Gee, who's in McLean, Virginia? Oh yeah, CIA.
This one is by. I've never heard of the outlet. It's called.
Yeah, that's why Ukraine is just a U.S. puppet government. And Ukraine's kill list is hosted by the CIA. Yep, totally expected.
Hashmari News is owned by the Municipality of Tehran. It is published by Hashmari Corp, founded in 1999. It is one of Iran's highest circulating newspapers and genuinely reflects the view of Tehran's municipal authorities. So that gives you an idea of the sentiment in Iran. the red
Well-
flags we saw in these protests, the MPs that have voted for vengeance, the statement from Mustafa Khamenei, this shows the consequences of a strategy of decapitating leadership, but also the religious leaders of an entire religious sect. And those consequences will be felt for many years and decades.
Well, what the United States and the West have succeeded in doing is strengthening the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah.
If you go back and measure maybe its support in December of 2025
Yep.
compared to now, dramatic increase. Even, there have been interviews with people on the streets who in the past said, yeah, we were opposed to the Islamic Republic, but not now. So this is, again, the West shooting itself in the foot multiple times.
28 million people came out for the funeral of the previous supreme leader.
Yeah. Strait of Hormuz, I know while everyone watches the World Cup, you're watching Tanker Trackers or the new one. What's your new one called?
Vesselfinder.com.
Vesselfinder.com. So a review, so that's from Maritime Traffic, a review of commercial vessels traffic from July 13th to 14th, so the last couple of days through the Strait of Hormuz shows 35 verified crossings, virtually all going through Iran's line. From UK MTO and other media reports, we know that several tankers coordinated by the US tried to cross the strait using the southern Omani lane with their AIS turned off. One is partially sunken after being hit by Iranian projectiles, and a few others are disabled. It's unclear. I haven't read this. So there's a few of them that tried to go through Omani side. One is sunken, the one we saw, and a few others are disabled. It's unclear how many vessels successfully transited the strait using the southern lane, but regardless, the number is too low for the strait to be considered quote, free and open. This is from Maritime Traffic. You can actually show that video there. These are the ships going through for people that want to watch it. But it's just wild. There's a few ships that went through, a few are disabled, and one is sunken. It's just like the stuff you see in movies.
Yeah, the Omani route is dead.
That's crazy. Okay, so there's another report here. So that's for anyone that wants to see it. You can see the traffic going through the northern part. Up there is the Iranian side. So all the ships going up north. There we go. Up there is the northern side. That's the Iranian side. And the one just below it is the southern side. That's empty. There's no ships going through. None we can see. Now, when they say that AIS transponders are off, it means you can't see it on this map. And this is what the article is referring to. Maritime Traffic is referring to. This is by Kepler, the shipping company. They said that there's a few of them that tried to go through the southern route. Very few gone through, if any. And one is sunken and others are disabled.
Right.
So that's going well. that's working out. You've got
It's just crazy. Iran has fire control. This is called the kill box in military terms, where you can be shot at from so many different directions. Don't try to sneak through the Strait of Hormuz.
Like Trump said, it's open. It's open. And Iran said, yeah, it is open. You fill out our paperwork, you get to go through. Just as long as you're not going to the United States or Israel, you're good.
We're talking about Israel. This will be the last thing we can cover for the days. Netanyahu is visiting Trump.
I imagine that they probably started charging tolls again.
He's flying out this Saturday, meeting him on Monday. Khan News reported, and I think Axios reported a story as well, that the Arab countries are telling Trump he cannot, that Netanyahu's, they have no trust in him and he's causing issues in the region. And this is playing a role in Trump distancing himself from Israel, telling Israel to pull out of Lebanon. We talked about it yesterday, to pull out of Syria, and causing a split between the Trump administration and Netanyahu, according to the reports. Khan News, I'll read out here what it says. Arab diplomats and say regional countries have been telling Trump they have little trust in Netanyahu and his government. Those messages are influencing Trump, who is increasingly viewing Netanyahu as an obstacle to his regional agenda and future diplomatic agreements. Many regional states are effectively waiting to see the outcome of Israel's upcoming elections while quietly trying to shape Washington's approach towards Bibi. And Bibi's heading to the US. And Bibi, in the meantime, today said the following. I'll read this quote to you. Quote, Israel is the one country in the Middle East that is holding the Middle East together. We are preventing Islamic radicals from taking over the Arab Peninsula, Jordan, and Egypt.
Well,
I'm not a Netanyahu fan.
number one, Iran is not filled with his, quote, Islamic radicals. I mean, they're not. They are Shia Muslims.
That would probably be Syria, where there's still all that remnants from ISIS.
And they're not radicals. It's just this is another smear campaign, scare tactics by Netanyahu. The radical Islamists, unfortunately, have been supported by the West. Al-Shara, case in point.
Yeah.
The
Syria.
one guy who's actually been involved with chopping heads off of people, he's the guy the West embraces. So I don't want to hear anymore.
Yeah, that guy went to like a NATO summit or... yeah, it's crazy. The ISIS general who participated in genocide of Christians in Syria, is now welcomed everywhere in the West.
More of this crap about, oh, Islamic radicals are going to take over the world. No, we're the ones facilitating them, and it's been going on for almost 40 years. I mean, it goes back to the Second Chechen War, basically funded by the West, with Islamic radicals that receive support via the CIA.
Yep.
How crazy is it that the people that were fighting the Islamists, ISIS, etc., are the ones that are killed or in exile, Assad being an example, and the people that were leaders in ISIS are leading a country and visiting the White House.
Yeah.
And again, that's coming from someone that
that's who Suleiman was fighting, the Islamic extremists.
Mm-hmm.
The same groups that killed Iranians, declaring
same groups that genocided 1 million Christians in Syria.
That they were heretics, that they were not true Muslims because they didn't follow the particular Sunni brand of Wahhabism.
Who was saying that?
Who was saying what?
The one talking about Iranians not being true Islamists because they don't follow Wahhabi Islam.
Yes, ISIS, Al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda. Remember, even actually, give Bin Laden credit, because back when Zarqawi started up ISIS in Iraq, he was attacking Shia Muslims, and even Bin Laden and his deputies, Zawahiri, were saying, "Hey, stop the killing of Muslims." But for Zarqawi and people like him, they viewed the Shia Muslim population as enemies, as heretics that needed to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Which is why the Iranians backed Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah, at some point, Mossad, CIA are going to start funding the equivalent of ISIS in Iran. And somewhere they're going to start new massacres of that type, the same type that happened in Syria. It'll be sad.
And helped Assad fight them, which again should have made us natural allies with Iran. If our goal was really to eradicate radical Islamists, but in the Israeli version of it, any Muslim that wants to hang on to their property, to the land that their families have lived on for generations, they're extremists.
Yep.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
Christians too, by the way. How dare the Christians in Lebanon want to hang on to the land that Israel wants to build settlements on? How dare they?
It's well, there's a story I mentioned earlier that Israel has lifted the restrictions on the U.S. Refueling aircraft, aerial refueling aircraft at the Ben Gurion airport. We talked about that issue, the clash between the U.S. and Israel yesterday, and Netanyahu's visit to Trump. So we've covered everything. There's something interesting. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay. Well, this was an interesting video covering everything going on in the Middle East, and everything's still going to hell at an intensifying pace since U.S. attacks are intensifying. They're still not as intense as they were during the height of the 40-day war, but we're getting there. Oil is still not flowing through the straits. We're still heading for an oil shock by the end of the summer, and that'll be fun. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch, and I'll see you next video. Bye.